Aye, 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 mamo. Fogo, fogo, la biro. Tennessee, Tennessee, oh Tennessee, la biro, dino. Hey, Tennessee, Tennessee, papa Tennessee, la biro, suna. Oh Tennessee, hey, la biro, suna. Oh Tennessee, la biro, suna. Oh la biro, la biro, la biro. Everybody get a part to play. Can I get a part to play? We get one part to play. La bire. I say la bire. Never forget la bire. Forget la bire. Forget la bire. I say forget la bire. Forget la bire. Aye, 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 aye. Mamo. Forget la bire. I say.
Welcome everybody in Focus on Liberia Land. We have a very, very interesting show here for you today. And I have some brilliant panelists here joining me from East Jersey, right? Mr. Carter.
Nope. I live in Massachusetts, Boston.
From Massachusetts, the New England. He's from the New England side of town, Mr. Gabriel Carter. And also William Gibson. You from up north, right? William from Minnesota?
No, sir. I'm actually in North Carolina.
Where?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Oh, wow. The opposite. You down south.
Yes, sir.
North Kakalaki.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and also joining me is Jay Colley. Jay Colley, where you coming in from?
I'm from Minnesota.
Minnesota. So you the one from Minnesota. It's cool enough yet? Yeah, you're already starting to get some ice on the ground.
Not in my area yet, but perhaps in the hinterland or something like that. But not quite in my area.
Yeah. Okay. And Mr. Sirleaf, where you calling in from?
From the beautiful city of Fargo, North Dakota.
What? They got black people there, man?
Yeah.
Who's that from North Dakota?
Mr. Sirleaf.
Right here.
What's the name again?
Sirleaf.
Oh, Sirleaf. Oh, okay. In Fargo. You're not far from, I'm in Moorhead.
Oh, you in Moorhead?
Yeah.
But man, we're right here. We're not catching up. We got to catch up maybe this week.
So y'all just right across the border from each other?
Just right across the river.
Two small cities.
I graduated from MSUM right there.
Oh, okay. I actually moved from Georgia here to work with Microsoft, but that was 2014.
Oh, the Microsoft campus is in Fargo, so you work in
Yeah,
Fargo.
yes, I did, but not at the moment. That was.
We gotta catch up. Let's team up and let's defeat Jerome Gateman.
And coming in from Miami, the real Miami, Mr. Jerome Gaiman.
Jerry's the
When you got
strawberry.
when you got these country boys from somewhere called Dakar, how they call it? Dakota?
Chicago.
Dakota.
Yeah, who live in a place like that?
You see, you see what happened?
Yeah.
How
Just
many, how
because you
many
live
people
in Miami, everybody else is country.
how many people live in that place? You might be about 10.
I telling you, North
Hey, see what I
Dakota.
was telling you,
What?
Jacob?
Well,
The man is strong, man.
We gotta pray for Gateman and his family. There's another storm headed their way in Florida, and this one looks very devastating.
oh
I
yeah,
think it was
another hurricane.
Category 5. Maybe it's coming down now to Category 4.
Listen,
Helene missed them.
but
Yeah.
listen, man. I water and wind can carry bathroom man anywhere. What you worry about that kind of thing? Man? You say water is a bathroom man. What you worry?
What you doing, Nicky man? Anyway, gentlemen, we have a great discussion prepared here tonight, and that is 9 months of the Boakai's administration: the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, I want each one of you guys to go over what you find are the good, the bad, and ugly, but we'll introduce one topic at a time, okay? Now, I'm just going to lead off. The good. You know, Gabriel, the one thing about good that they claim the Boakai administration has done, or at least one of the most significant actions, was signing the War and Economic Crimes Bill into law in 2024. This marked a major step in ending the culture of impunity that has plagued Liberia for decades. The bill seeks to hold accountable those responsible for crimes committed during the Civil War, as well as economic management. This decision positioned Boakai as a leader committed to justice, accountability, and breaking the cycle of impunity that had shielded powerful individuals in the past. What do you highlight as one of the good of this administration in the last 9 months?
Hey, thank you. That is a great question. I think we've beaten this administration to a pulp in terms of calling out some of the failures and false starts and all of that. But in between that, I think they have some little bit of wins that you can celebrate as well. One of the one that you just mentioned, the War and Economic Crime Court. And the most recent one as well is the bid to get a seat on the UN Security Council. So I think for me, those are the two that I can think about right now. I think the second one is the most important one. And the reason why it's the most important, and when I talk to other people, is this, as the oldest democracy on the continent, we supposed to be the it factor in terms of democracy, in terms of every economic measure you can think about. So bidding for a seat on the UN Security Council, I think it'll elevate us, democratically. It will put us, in the place where we need to be, where we should have been, as a nation that leads in security, a nation that leads in democracy. So I think this is something monumental that this administration should be celebrated, and I hope they continue to bid for that and to get that seat permanently. However, what I will, also push for is to have not just get a seat, but it should have some veto power. Like if you're gonna give someone a position, give them a position with, some level of credibility. So I think for me those are the two most important thing, and I think for me most importantly the second one, which is the
But
UN.
Mr. Carter, let me push back a little bit. Once upon a time, Liberia was that lone voice in the wilderness, speaking up for Africans, suppress Africans all around South Africa, Angola, and to today Namibia, Zimbabwe, all over. We were that voice. We that voice that championed Pan Africanism and were the authors of the OAU Charter.
Yeah,
Are we still
we
taking that role before we want to request such a position?
we were, and I think I mean, hopefully most of you are more you're more knowledgeable about history than I am. I'm more on the economic and finance side, but we lost that. We were Blyden was the pretty much the pioneer of Pan-Africanism before everybody, all Kwame Nkrumah and everyone else, picked up and ran with it. But again, as always, he championed something and then he fizzled out. He didn't go to the conference in the EU, I mean in Europe, the same thing. But I think where we lost our footing, most importantly, was the San Equale Convention, where that speech was given. This is where every other African country put us aside and said, this country is going in its own direction. This is when we align ourselves with the West. But I think this is where we lost our voice, and hopefully, we're coming back around again with this UN Security Council seat to maybe you know take our position where we should have been. So I think I'm excited about this, despite everything else that is happening with the false start and everything else. This is monumental. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Gibson, the other thing that people may cite good about this administration is the anti-corruption efforts. Boakai initiated several anti-corruption measures, including the establishment of an asset recovery committee and audits of key government institutions such as the central bank. While the asset recovery team has faced some challenges, the audits by the GAC, the General Auditing Commission, revealed significant financial mismanagement under the previous administration, which helped to underscore Boakai's commitment to improving transparency. Well, what do you cite as one of the good things about this administration, if you agree with this?
Yeah, I mean, in addition to the audits that have been taking place and work done to combat corruption, I think also the establishment of the Office of the Ombudsman. I think this is the first time something such as this has been established by any administration. So to see them undertake that, I think that's a step in the right direction. I think that's one of the good things they've done so far with establishing that office.
Very good. Let me see if I can say Mr. Gaiman is not here. Can everybody mute until we go off? I hear there's some background somewhere. Mr. Selif, I'm going to be coming to you. Another sighting of something positive about this administration within the last 9 months, the infrastructure promises. Early in this administration, Boakai made promises to improve the country's infrastructure, particularly by addressing the poor condition of major roads. His declaration that no car will get stuck in the mud or major highways reflected a focus on practical improvements in the everyday life of Liberians. Though the implementation of these projects is still in progress, the promise highlighted the commitment to addressing pressing infrastructure issues. What do you think is one of the positives about this administration in the last 9 months?
Well, let me just begin with where you left off. I mean, the intention behind the improvement of the road infrastructure in Liberia, it was a good intention. It's just that it was a little bit ill-advised because people should have known at the time these promises were made, we were in dry season. So you spend 22 million trying to rehabilitate those roads, forgetting to know that once you hit the rainy season, the soil is already loosened from the work done on the road. It was going to just put them in a more deplorable state, but it was a good intention. As we thought about this, considering the JMB entire administration for the 9 months right now, the only good thing I could think about, my brother already talked about it, but I would just add some flesh on that bone. Liberia's bid for a member seat on the Security Council of the United Nations. I mean, Liberia has been a founding member of the United Nations in 1945. There were 4 African countries that signed the UN Charter, which included Egypt, Ethiopia, South Africa, and Liberia. Liberia was not just a founding member of the United Nations. Liberia was also a founding member of the League of Nations that was replaced with the United Nations. Liberia since 1960, since the early 1960s, Liberia has been a strong contributor to UN peacekeeping, since the 1960s. Currently, I think Liberia is the 60th largest contributor to UN peacekeeping, with 172 uniformed personnel currently deployed. So I don't think it's something that is unfounded. Liberia should pursue for that seat. That non-member UN Security Council seat that Liberia is seeking is a good. I don't know why no other administration ever thought about it. So that's one good thing that I can credit the JMB administration for, and I hope that they can get their arts together, work with every partner that they can work with, the former president Weah, former president Salif, whoever they can work with, and stop the internal conflict so that we can get that seat on the Security Council, because if any other country in Africa deserves that seat, Liberia deserves it more, given our historical record with the United Nations.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Cully. Mr. Cully, 9 months into the Boakai's administration, what can you give it a thumbs up on?
Well, since we're on the positive, I was in Liberia, I believe. I left Liberia in March. This was there were not a lot of motorbikes on the road as it was before, and maybe because of the implementation of the helmet. Whoever was doing that, still a lot of them were not on the road. That was a little bit better for me. I'm just going to speak in practical terms from what I observed. As far as the current was like a popcorn when I went there, when I was there. It would just come boom, boom, boom. But now it's a little stable. I still help a lot of people there, even though it goes, but it doesn't take long. It comes by on. And Mr. Bestman, you can correct me, but I think it's a little better there. Am I correct?
It's a little better where? Exactly.
In Liberia.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you just wait now, Mr. Cully. You told me you were just that. We want your honest opinion.
Okay, it's a little better. As for the road, the RIA road, I can say I think they push a little bit further, but I don't think it had any kind of. I don't want to say it. Let me just leave it. But yeah.
Well, they not fixed the roundabout. The roundabout to ERW junction there. They're not connected. The red light thing. They have connected that now, and so we do see some progress going on, right?
Yes, a little bit of that. And security-wise, I don't know if that has improved, but I think there's a little bit of calmness because the presence of the new government kind of deterred. I don't know if they're waiting to strike, but I didn't see much of that. So it's a little bit of improvement, and I think they are working on other things. As for the school, uh, the female that is at the ministry, she's doing her best. She started putting uh, some practical stuff in place. I mentioned that the last time, numbering system for students. Trying to centralize the school system in a way that she can sit right in the ministry and be
I
able
think
to
she
tell.
developed a database, right? Some kind of database for the students.
I don't know if they said database or something, but maybe she's gearing to that. She's getting close to that. But from the MCAT, I don't know if that's how you call it, meeting that I watched, she was putting and talking about this, when she was giving out that information, which I think is a good thing because, as we know in the past, people would just come from anywhere and jump classes, and don't do well because they're not taking the right classes, And she said she would be in her office. No, she did not say. Somebody said from that same meeting that she will be in her office and be able to tell what student is in what school based on the ID that is given. And I think that's improving. I don't know about the MCSS, whether that's going to come back. Like we used to have Morovia consolidated school system. Even that, I don't know how far they went with the private sectors because there are some school stay not doing great. You have high school teacher teaching. I happen to have, I will not call the name of the school. Maybe I'll call one of them. But high school teacher teaching physics and math. And I told him just forget it because that's not possible. You can't teach, you can't graduate high school, teach physics and math in high school. No.
Unless you're a genius. Yeah.
Yeah, no, forget about that. Because those are two difficult subject areas. Um, as far as I don't know if that's improving because there are some schools, even those schools, a lot of them are uh, stay, having indenture seven who, people are not paid what they deserve. But I think she's working on those. As far as the water, huh? What was
Hey,
that?
say it again.
No, I thought somebody was talking back to
No,
me.
no, go ahead.
As far as the water
No.
system, I don't know. That has not. Somebody said they were doing some block, mapping some area. I don't know if they started Nukutai area or something. I don't know if it was about addressing or something. But I saw these
Mhm.
guys with laptop all around. Maybe it was for the meter. Laptop around. Some laptop would die and some would be on and so forth. So I think they're working on something. I don't know exactly what to say about that, but we still have that hanging in the air. I think there's little progress. If not, I would agree that the lady that gave the oration said that we should have some medium or media where people can, put all the progress that they make, for Ministry of Foreign Affairs, agriculture, put things there that we can see and say, these are the milestones that they've already covered. But other than that, I think it's just little here and there.
Okay, and let me go to my brother, Mr. Gaiman, the unrepentant sedition. At least you can give us some positive about this administration from the last 9 months.
Well, I come from a social science background. If you can't see it and you can't measure it, you cannot grade it. I see my brother Cully is struggling to find some spots. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you something that is tangible that we all can verify. There are two things that Joseph Boakai have done well, and I gave him 100% on it. One is the appointment of Dr. Dubai Nya at the National Institute of Health. That's his specialty. That is something you got to give him credit for. That is putting somebody who is an expert Now the onus is on Dr. Nya, who has been around forever, saying he wanted to come and revamp the whole Liberian health system. Now he has the chance to do this. Second, Joseph Boakai appointed Dr. Besigye at the Education High Commission. Dr. Besigye belongs in that particular area. He is an analyst, he's a critical writer, he is a genius in that area. So this is what I was saying. If you're going to appoint someone, please give them the power and the authority to actually carry on what they know. So to those two areas, you have to give him credit. But anything else that is not tangible, is not palpable, it's not that you cannot actually measure. If you don't have a measurable outcome, it has not happened. Then we try to be minimalist. So those two areas, anyone who sits on here who knows the two gentlemen will tell you that they are expert in their fields and they are exactly where they're supposed to be.
Okay, so at least we got something positive for this Boakai administration. He made some good appointments, and that means for anybody who want to have a takeaway, if he makes more appointments, good appointments like this, he will probably have a successful administration. So there's room for improvement. So we're going to go to part B, which is the bad. Now we're going to mention three things that are not going so well with the Boakai administration, but can be fixed. Okay, so let me
Eastman, you didn't bring in William Gibson to give his own good points.
Oh no, I spoke earlier.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. He did speak. Okay, well, let me go straight to you since you are advocating it. Now, one thing cited is the ineffective anti-corruption measures. So while Boakai has demonstrated a commitment to fighting corruption, such as forming an asset recovery committee, the execution has been problematic, to say the least. The committee faced legal challenges and was criticized for mishandling cases, lacking a strategic plan, and not following judicial procedures. This resulted in public skepticism about the effectiveness. What can Boakai fix this? Maybe by enhancing the competence, like we just mentioned, of these committees. What do you think about what is bad and how can it be fixed?
First and foremost, let me just backtrack because I left out two things I was thinking about. When it comes to the good things, I think one of the things I want to praise the administration on is still the maintenance of our rights to free speech. That is why we can all gather here and bear our minds on issues going on in our country.
Excuse me, who is doing that?
I mean, we've not heard anything about shutting down institutions and apart from the civil service. No.
Mr. Jimmy, you will have your time to form.
Yeah, I just want to know what planet he's on. That's all I want to know.
No. Allow him to finish, and you can push back on it if you like.
Thank you.
Apart from the civil service boss who wanted people to be fired or something because of criticizing the president on social media, I've not seen Boakai himself voice anything about shutting down social media or shutting down people's free speech. And my mind on that was, okay, yep, people criticize Josiah Joker, but I mean, if you want to work in an administration, you want to be an opposition, join the opposition. Even here in America, I don't think somebody will be working for the Biden administration and trashing the Biden administration at the same time. Or the company that I work with, I can't be there working with the company and trashing the company at the same time. So, I mean, free speech, we still got some level of free speech, so it's a good thing. I saw some pictures coming out of Liberia today with the Liberian government, public works, and the Chinese trying to construct overpasses on Tottenham Boulevard. I thought that was some good step if they will follow through on that, because the unnecessary traffic in Liberia, I mean, we don't have that many cars. It's just our roads are poorly constructed. T Junction is a hub for traffic, so what kind of country? The whole country, no overpasses, nothing. So that's why I'm contributing. So I think that would be a good thing. But when it comes to the judicial review and all that stuff, I think there's so many things to criticize in that area, especially given the fact that JMB was vice president for 12 long years, 12 consecutive years. Most of those policies, he helped to enact those policies. So especially things that had to do with tenure positions, and to have the Supreme Court of Liberia pushing back on most of your decision is just unacceptable. I mean, by this time you should know what to do. You're about around 50 years in public service. You should know exactly what to do given your track record, and 12 years as the vice president, which is the head of the Senate. I mean, most of these things, you were part of them. They didn't happen in a vacuum. They did not happen without your knowledge. So to then come back and try to rescind some of those things and get the pushback from the Supreme Court, I think that was a misstep. And is there hope? Yes. I mean, he has 6 years. This is just the first 9 months. So he still got 5 years, 3 months to go.
So what does he need to do to improve those things you mentioned now?
Like I said before, JMB, I think everything was done in a hurry. So he needs to sit down and recalibrate. They had time, okay? Like I said on many platforms, and I will say here, I think I've said it before, every opposition is a government in waiting. And I said on the last broadcast, Friday night debate, Liberia has successfully passed herself as an opposition country. Because in the opposition, we can criticize, we can do the marches, the protests. Opposition are very effective in Liberia. But take those same opposition and put them in the power. They don't know what to do anymore. Ellen was in the opposition for over 30 years. She advocated, blah, blah, blah. Ellen came to be president. She didn't know what to do. CDC, they were in the opposition for 12 years. Carrying casket all over the place. I think I saw Gamer too in that group with casket on his head. These guys, now they got power for 6 years. They didn't know what to do. JMB and his group and all the noise people made during the 6 years of WIA with a rescue train and everything, we thought by the time they got there, change will happen. Look at what's happening. So Liberia is a successful opposition country. We don't know how to lead. We know how to oppose. So what's the way forward? Let's give them some time. They got 5 years and 3 months. Let's see. JMB need to sit down, recalibrate, bring the right people on his advisory team so that before you take a decision, even here in America, Joe Biden will not just get and make an appointment. They vet. He has the lawyers that were advising. If you make the decision, this will be the fallout. If you do this will be. Sit down. Take your time. Don't be in a hurry to appoint people. Don't be in a hurry to dismiss people. Don't be in a hurry to just do things. Let your advisor, let your political advisor, your legal advisor, your economic advisor, whatever advisor you get around you, let them be the best people and who follow best practices, and let them guide you and make decisions slowly after you've asked all the questions surrounding that decision. That's the way forward. But they've been doing everything in a hurry.
Do the due diligence. But one caveat I'm going to take away what you mentioned just now. We have been very good in opposition, and this goes back way back.
Way back.
PPP, the PAL, the Moja, all the criticism.
Yep.
But how about governance?
We are poor on that.
That has been the hard part. That's what we find. I love that. I'm going to take that away. Let me go to Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, I'm going to a pet peeve of yours. Liberia, limited economic reforms. Liberia continues to face severe economic issues, including inflation, poverty, and unemployment. Early signs in Boakai's administration suggest that these problems are worsening, exacerbated by subsidy removals and slow economic restructuring. To address this, What should Buckeye's government, or what could Buckeye do in the long term? What sort of strategies would you suggest? And what else do you think they could improve on?
Man, that is a mouthful of a question, but I would take a stab at it, bite by bite, and hopefully I can offer some perspective that makes sense. I mean, it's this is not no secret. I think Mr. Sirleaf alluded to as well that everything this administration did, they did in a hurry. Um, that that includes the appointment of his economic team. Um, I don't think those people were appointed based on qualification. I think they were appointed because they voted for him and they felt entitled to being appointed. So he, appointed them. The same thing with the asset recovery team. But this administration, I think they have a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of opportunities. Yeah, and for me, that's what I think I want to stick with, right? The recast of the budget that was done. If I were him or anyone closer to him, I would restructure it to align with my policies, right? Meaning it was put forth, it was done by the previous administration, right? I didn't like it. His administration apparently did not think it supported his agenda. The fact that he took it back and recast it and reevaluated it should have been a lot of structure, evidence that when people look at it, some of us took a look at it, we should have seen those changes in there. That this budget does reflect the agenda of this administration. You know, everything in the arrest that they talked about. But I also want to piggyback on something Mr. Selly said as well, but I want to take it a bit further. And I think I've said this here plenty of time. We, I think this is not just with this administration. We do not, we just talk about agendas, we talk about policies, but we don't quantify them, right? Meaning, with the example, with the president, his arrest agenda, the first thing in it is agriculture. He did not have an agriculture plan, right? He talked about roads. Doesn't. He didn't have an infrastructure plan. Meaning, yes, you talk about infrastructure in the agenda itself, but did you pull that out and look at what type of infrastructure do you need? How much is going to cost you, and then now take that infrastructure to go seek funding for it. None of those things. So it in its collective sense, there's lack of planning, right? The last thing I want to say, because I think there's a lot of us here, is this whole trip that he's taken from country to country to country. I continue to say this: there is money in Liberia. If you've gone 2, 3, 4, 5 trips, right, you don't get anything back. You didn't yield any result. Nobody trusts your government to, you know, lend you any money. Go back, look within, right? Go back, look within. Talk to your minister of finance, right? Say, hey, and the central bank governor, since you have influence on that now, how can we build this economy from within as opposed to going outward, right? Because we have already tried that, and nobody seemed to trust us early enough to say, I'm going to give these people this quantum of money for them to carry out their infrastructure plan. So you reconvene back into your country with the Minister of Finance, the central bank governor, or again, your economic team, and look for things within the economy that you can revitalize, such as you can, and everybody continue to say that, but I think I will continue to pitch it as well. The diaspora is technically the middle class of Liberia, right? Put a diaspora bond together, right? And you might say, hey, people don't trust our financial system. That should be something you work on now. How do you build the financial system in Liberia that people feel comfortable bringing back their capital in the country? Like, people have money here, they can take it back and store it in banks in Liberia if they trusted the banks in Liberia, right? So if that is one of your challenges that you're having, you fix that, which will now allow you to have capital within the country. You can even create a diaspora bond where people buy into it, right? But we continue to go on these trips. Every trip that he's been on, they have yet to raise any capital for any of his infrastructure or agenda. So right now they're at square one. We're 3 months away from the year end, and I will echo it, the same thing as what Mr. Salih said. Go back, do reflection at the end of the year, and it's going to be a hard pill to swallow or a big gun to shoot, but do that and do a clean house. Bring people in. I don't care if this is your mother who voted for you. If she doesn't qualify, tell her, say, Mom, I know you supported me, but I don't think you qualify to get the job. Let me put somebody there who's going to do the job and do a clean house. Put people in position who can really help you build your economy from within. There's a thing in finance we call skin in the game, right?
So let me ask you quickly. When you talk about qualification and loyalty, which should be higher priority?
Qualification comes before loyalty. I don't care if you're loyal to me. If you can't do the job, who takes the blame on it? I'm going to take the blame, right? It's going to make me look bad, right? So I would take qualification over loyalty. There's a thing we call skin in the game. Before you go to somebody's table to say, hey, I need money, you got to show them that you have put in some of your own capital in there to now trust you to say, this guy has some skin in the game. He's serious about what he wants to do. Let's trust him. But we have not invested in ourselves. We have not raised any money locally. And yet we are here parading these international halls looking for capital, right? There are a few who wants to lend, but there are challenges. But that's another story.
I copy.
Thank you.
Come from a true economist. I like that. Get your house in order before you go around and soliciting support. Your house not in order, people would not want to listen to you. Mr. Cully, I think I might not have come to you yet. Another thing they cite is public discontent and insecurity. I think you mentioned something. There's been criticism that the Boakai's administration is more focused on spreading the political elite rather than, or more focused on appeasing the political elite rather than addressing the needs of ordinary Liberians. In addition, security concerns remain a pressing issue, with the industrial unrest and rising poverty contributing to a general feeling of instability. You've heard of a whole lot of little rioting in the mining areas. A potential solution. Can you propose a potential solution, or what do you think is somewhere that the Boakai administration can improve on?
Thank you so much, Mr. Bestman. I think the problem with Liberia is Liberian problem. And it's unfortunate that we all sit on the side and not able to contribute because you don't have the avenues, or you don't have a means of plugging in. So I would answer that question and I would build on it. I think for Liberia to function, by the way, let me pick on Mr. Gay Man first. He did social science, but I don't know the science in it. Anyway.
Look, you sit behind some that every day looking at computer, you talking about something.
That was a good punch. I like that. That was a good one.
You see, one of the things I learned in this country is that you have the sociologists. The sociologists help the government, I don't know at what level, to allocate resources. And so they are able to determine which area needs certain resources and the urgency of the resources and so forth. How that works effectively, well, in theory, that's what I learned. When you look at Liberia, what I will offer is that Liberia needs a bureau that is called Strategic Bureau. Strategic Bureau will encompass all these technocrats. So they may not go directly into the government sphere, but they can, penetrate through the Strategic Bureau. In that Strategic Bureau, you have lawyers for concession, who are well trained, clinicians, people who are trained in their area and know about concession. You have, when it comes to security, maybe cyber help that will advise the national. I don't know why NSA does, because anyway. So you need strategic bureau, and once you have strategic bureau, you will then be able to take care of a lot of the grassroots problems we have, because Liberia is not Monrovia. And it seems like when the government takes place, all of the issues are centered in Monrovia. I give you an example. I'm very curious. When I go to Liberia, I like to go around. I went to Smenotis Court. Oh Lord, it was chaotic, disorganized, and it was so bad, to say the least. I mean, the judge would be speaking. I didn't even know who the judge was. He'll be speaking. People will interrupt, and then go grab the other person, and you see, Mamelo will get you a little money, a motorbike, to go grab someone on the motorbike and bring them. I don't think that kind of issue is being talked about. It's being addressed. We're talking about justice. And so we have the judiciary branch, the legislative branch, but courts are part of the judiciary. So when you have, I think Brother Kato was talking about people qualified. This is really a serious problem. It's really our problem. And then when you talk about education, people try to shy at education. But the difference between you and the bamboos in the jungle is education. The bamboo comes up, he wakes up, he walks through the jungle, the same trail, the same trees are there, he beats his chest, he eats the raw leaf. But what education does is that when you educate it, you go there, you say, this water has germs, I can't drink it. It's going to improve your quality of life. I can't sleep under this tree, it's dark, we need electricity. Now, it's not somebody from Bunkonima that is going to bring electricity, it's education. It's education. To build roads. We have a university, there's no software engineering. And when the budgets are passed, there's nothing about that. You don't have biomedical engineering. You don't have model-based engineers. You don't have, right after war, there's no construction engineering. What are we prioritizing our universities? You have other countries like China, you can almost tell them I want this and they bring it out. They just go right there and bring it out. We don't have that. We're talking about electricity. We got to go bring. I was there when during weird time they were running wires. People from Ghana were doing that. And if one of the guys from Liberia died on the pole.
Yeah, I agree with you. I used to work with LEC, and I don't see any Liberians there anymore. It's a tragedy.
I attended LU. I was in my 6th semester doing electrical engineering. I left from that country in 1990. And I will tell you, we have what we call city monkeys. Guys from Don Bosco will be up on the pole, and then the engineer for LU got walkie-talkie standing. It's really we need root cause analysis. And the only thing we can do to tackle these, it has to be professionals in a strategic bureau. When you go among these guys from the ministry and you say you want to say this, they're just going to push you away.
Yes, very good. That's very true. All professionals face the same thing. When are we going to change this behavior pattern?
I would just say this. Another thing I had was I went to a gallery and there was this guy there was sitting talking. He said he's the director for health at the health ministry. And he said he was in the States. And I said, what part of the States? And he said, Maryland. I said, how long did you live in Maryland? He said, 2 years. And I said, oh, wow. So where did he go to school? He said, I went to Johns Hopkins. And I said, so you studied 2 years, you live in the States 2 years, and you studied at Johns Hopkins, and you the director of health? He said, what are you trying to tell me? I came from the elite. I said, I don't give up. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the problem we have. He tried to fight me. I said, this is wrong. You can't just come and tell our people, you got this paper, you got that, and occupy opposition. because those areas have intricacies. They have technical areas that if you haven't worked in the field, you can't do anything about them. You can't. For example, another example, I know we might come to it. The mobile money thing. Now, I will ask myself, did the mobile money thing go through legislature initially, or it just happened in open air? So together and just say, stop it. I like reforms. It's good. But what's the stop it policy? Did it go through legislature? What data are you dealing with? Can
That's
people look
it.
at that? Can people look at our data? Of course, I will argue that if mobile money is collecting fees, they should pay taxes.
Of course, that's what the LTA it should be there for. I agree with you. I don't really think, I'm not sure how much say LTA had in it. That is the body that controls telecommunications, IT, and all that sort of thing in the country. And I don't even know those guys are paying taxes on all those mobile transfers. That is something the government. That's a very good point you brought up. But let me go to the next person.
Let me
I want
just
you to
finish.
hold that thought.
Let me just finish quickly,
Okay.
and then I'll let you go. So summing everything up, we need a strategic bureau to do either critical path analysis or root
Yeah.
cause analysis. And then there we can have sociologists, the social scientists we have here, our honorable Mr. Eastman, can be there. Right
A
there.
think tank.
A
Right?
think tank. Very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And then, but lastly, I just want to say, when I went to Ghana, I observed something. They have what they call Forex. I wanted to change money. It was difficult. I had to drive, get Uber to go change money where they call Forex. You don't see all these makeshift stuff sitting inside the road. Because the question is, are these guys paying taxes? You collect money, people send all this money from the US. And all these fees are leveled against it. We pay fees here, the fees there. Sorry for digressing, but what I'm trying to say in essence here is the government comes in and there's no oversight, and there are just just minute stuff they focus on. So we need strategic bureau to analyze these things, come up with data, and say, hey, the judiciary system from Bunaway to Smenotes, something is wrong, or the road system, something is wrong. Appropriation of foreign concessions, these are bad. Good lawyers are saying, what country have you gone? You see somebody buy or 1 million acre of land for less than $7,000.
Okay.
And
Let's never come back to that. Hold that thought. You're right. The foreign exchange. I don't even know if they pay taxes. But let me go to Mr. Gaiman on this. I don't think you've touched this topic. What do you think they could improve on? It's not too well, but they can be improved on. What are your suggestions?
Well, the entire government needs to be improved. One thing that they got going for them, because like the folks say, when you are on the ground, there's nowhere else to go but up. They have performed so badly that they have to, anything they do now will be an improvement on what they are doing. Look at my brother just talked about a bureau of experts. Okay, you have Bureau of Budget, you got Bureau of Immigration, you got all of these bureaus. The Ministry of Finance, they are there. We got a Bureau of Statistics, and all this. They have all these bureaus doing their work. Then Boakai has a problem that it looks like it is inherent. He's born with it. For instance, we got qualified Liberians that are city planners, engineers. We talk about landscape architects in Liberia, Liberian tree. What did Joseph Boakai do? Joseph Boakai picked some guy they call Mark Jabate to be the urban planner, a man who cannot read or write. The last time I saw him, he was dividing cow meat somewhere. They made him the Liberian urban developer planner. Can you imagine that urban planners from Liberia that have gone abroad and living in Liberia and are well trained? You didn't tap them. You take some guy who, because he camping for you in the interior, you brought him and you made him a director of urban planning. Do you know what urban planning is? But I'm saying when you say what they can improve on, someone talk about investment coming into the country. You and I know when I work for the Chamber of Commerce, I've been saying this over and over. One of the things they look at is security in your country, the rule of law. If the president of the country, okay, is disrespecting the Supreme Court of the country, the final arbiter of justice.
We're fact checking you, Mr. Gaiman. They say Jabata is a college graduate, according to Elvis Morris.
Oh, okay. Whatever college grad, I don't know what was his degree, but definitely there is no school in Liberia that gave you a degree in urban planning, maybe in a real sense. If he has a degree in urban planning, has he ever worked or he just has a diploma? So you can let him check that. So here we are, okay? If you had a man, let's say you're looking for an urban planner, what is it that the urban planner is supposed to do? What did Mr. Jabata do last week when the folks, when they were flooded all in the area? He says he went to some community and he donated 20 bags of rice. That is your urban planning. You talk about law and order. If the president of the nation is disobeying the Supreme Court, why would I take my $1 million and put it in the Republic of Liberia when I take them to court? The president is so powerful that he can override the Supreme Court of the country. Who does that? So when we're talking about improvement, you talked earlier about the asset recovery. That was not an asset recovery team. That was a fiasco because you had the LACC, you have all the different agencies that are enshrined with the law. Okay, you had he empowered the ombudsman. You got all of these people, then you bypass all these agencies and you set up few guys to come and be asset recoverer, and you wonder why they fell flat on their faces. So here we are. We are talking about how come maybe Mr. Josiah Joker cost 6,000, 7,000 jobs and the wage bill is increasing. Why? Because the president appointing all these committees and telling the Ministry of Finance gave the asset recovery at the 300,000 or 700,000 to do their work. You appoint this other committee, you get a 500,000. Where you think the money is coming from? So these are the things we are talking about. Joseph Boakai wants to improve. Like yesterday, he was at the airport. He said, in the sub-region, based on my travel, we are underperforming so badly that when I go to other countries, when they turn the faucet, the water comes on. When they flip the light come on. That's why people don't want to come back. People want to stay in those countries. Same way Joseph Boakai knew this. This man, he was a kid there in 1966. He got into the work for 1971. Okay, he been working over 50 years. He just figured it out that Liberia doesn't have those infrastructure. Then he said, if I need it, for me, it doesn't matter if I have to ride a wheelbarrow to the executive mansion, I will ride a wheelbarrow to the executive mansion. In the same breath, you turn around, you are ordering $1.5 million in armored vehicle for you and your vice president. So you see, the disconnect is what we are talking about. So yeah, Mr.
Got a wheelbarrow there, man.
Needs to be overhauled.
Yeah, Mr. Gaiman, the Strategic Bureau is not going to be part of the government. The Strategic Bureau that I'm talking about is independent bureau that has all these technocrats, professionals that we need, to work independently, not for the government in our bureau. So
who pays them and who legislate them and who monitor them?
That's what I'm saying. If it's allowed by law, you can put it together with people like from the diaspora let's not think about the diaspora. Only people from the United States. We got Germans,
Yeah.
Iberians, Australian, and these are smart people all over the world. But when you have strategic bureau, it becomes a conduit to the government to say, okay, what are you thinking about right now? You're doing no. That's not the way to do it. We challenge that, and this is
Right.
the data.
Well, we got to
It
move
is.
on. It's a resource of the government. I don't know how it be constituted, how they finance, but yes, I do agree. Most democracies around, they have a body that just comes up with the suggestions, plans. They take a microscopic look into things, statistical, analytical, social analysis. Yeah, we could. But Mr. Gibbon, could you land?
Yes, no, but the question was what can they improve on? And I'm telling you, the best thing that Joseph Boakai has going for him is time. He 1 year has lapsed. He said he had something called arrest. And then he admitted in July that it was just a slogan. He had put together a committee to develop a plan around arrest. And he gave them to the end of the year to get the report. So that tells me that the entire 2024, they are flying blind. There's nothing, there's no plan based on what he said. So we are not talking about they said, we are talking about facts here. Joseph Boakai had constituted a committee to develop the arrest agenda. So that means everything he was saying, there is no plan for the entire first year.
Mr. Gibson, have you touched this topic yet? What could be improved upon?
No, I haven't touched it.
Go ahead.
I would say from all the trips President Boakai has had coming back to Liberia, it seems he has this light bulb moment where he's able to have a come to Jesus moment to where he realizes all the things, the shortcomings, as everyone has alluded to on this panel, is as if these things are new information that's come out. What that says to me is he's in the business of doing a lot of lip service. And when I say lip service, he's always talking about the good things that he sees for the future. But the time is now. You are at the helm of power. So you either act or you would just rather continue to talk lip service.
Everybody else, please mute. Please mute.
When there's no action behind the words that he's using, and when he comes back into the country, even that Thanksgiving ceremony he had on Sunday, I think that was a waste of time. Why are you sitting at your residence with your yes men, giving yet again another speech to where lip service is being promoted? If you're somebody who's all about action, follow through with it. The three things I can list right now that he's done horribly is with the implementation of these investigations that have happened from the LDEA, you name it, a bunch of different areas where investigation has taken place and he has not acted on it. It shows that he is very slow to act, or he just simply is okay with the status quo. The second is the lack of transparency. When we look at transparency within this government, there is nowhere to be found. When the Yellow Machine saga took place, the government put out two individuals, one from the mansion and then the other one from the Ministry of Information, Culture, and Tourism, two very differing stories where they had to come back and say, oh, it was a gentleman's agreement. All of these things that are taking place, it shows that, again, there is no concerted effort to where people are working together to make sure that the agenda items are met when it comes to this arrest agenda. Also, going further with the lack of transparency, a lot of these agency websites are not up to date. If you are a potential investor wanting to invest in X, Y, and Z area, let it be agriculture or something within the mines and energy sector, if there's no available information, what will you do? Will you be able to pick up the phone and call somebody to get that information readily available? No. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that space. And then lastly, the corrupt practices. You have the office of the ombudsman, but not everyone has declared the assets that is in that government. If you are a person that wanted to lead by example, he declared his assets, the VP did. But then everybody else in your administration has not done the same. So how about following through with action and suspending them until they go ahead and improve what their assets are and they declare it? That will show that you're a leader that is trying to change the status quo and not do business as usual. When you talk about the MedTech scandal involving the Ministry of Commerce, the Minister of Commerce, and LRA, nobody is speaking up. The president is sitting and watching all these talk shows where they cover all these items. He listens to radio. He listens to all these areas, right? But he's not acting on anything. The Yellow Machine saga, it goes on and on. You travel around the world, but you're seeing that Liberia is still left in the dark. Liberia is still far behind. What are you going to do differently? You have a slogan or a mantra that you're leading with that says no longer business as usual, but everything has been business as usual. You've come in to the helm of power, but you have failed, and you continue to fail as a leader that has vision.
Thank you. You know, everything, if I were to sum up everything you guys have been saying so far about this, what could be improved, it appeared he needs somebody who can be his, who knows how to get things done. If he sees something that, like, we want water and sewer worker, he's got an expert at water and sewer, but he needs somebody to oversee all these things done in education, in healthcare, and so it comes down to hiring the right team of experts, a consolidated team to organize and make sure every ministry, every organization, every bureau is performing according to a plan and coordinating each other's efforts. But there are things that, well, will be hard to fix. We call that the ugly. So we did the good. We did the bad that can be improved, but now we're going to the ugly. The ugly are really bad and complicated or very hard to fix. Now, I'm going to lead off with Mr. Gaiman. One of those things is deep-rooted corruption. Despite efforts to address corruption, it remains a deeply ingrained issue in Liberia's political and social systems. The Asset Recovery Committee's failures, as well as corruption scandals involving key political figures, highlight the difficulty in eradicating this problem. Corruption is systematic, involving high-level political elites and institutions, making it hard to tackle comprehensively. Without stronger institutions, transparent judicial processes, a broader political will, it is unlikely that corruption will be fully addressed. Mr. Gaiman, go have at it. You're muted.
I wanted Mr. Sally to go because he has not spoken for a while. So, Mr. Sally, I yield to you, then I'll go later on.
Thank you, Mr. Gaiman. You know, my man Eastman, that man, I've been suspecting him.
Yeah, he told me he didn't like you for a long time.
So before I get
he's talking about corruption, but he's corrupt.
Yeah,
yes.
All right. Yeah. He's been trained by Mr. Boakai.
So thank you, Mr. Gaiman. You know, let me just pick it back a little. I wanted to say something, but I did not want to interrupt, and then I go on the ugly. On Friday night debate, I gave an analogy that I want to repeat. If you go to all the crude towns, you go to all our coastal cities, where the crew people go to fish, they got a big canoe. It's a whole team. The canoe doesn't sleep on the water. They always sleeps on the beach. There are men that pull the canoe when they come from fishing on the shore. When they're ready to go fishing, so many guys that go there, they push it. Hey, yo, they push. The canoe rests in the water. Who gets in the canoe to go fish? It's not the people who push the canoe, not everybody who push. The people who get in that canoe to go fish are, number one, the people who understand the waters, people who can swim, people who can man the net, people who can reel in the net for a catch, people who can loose the net and cast the net. You have to have some expertise for that fishing to get in the kingdom. When it comes to Liberian government, it's anybody who ran campaign, anybody who supported, anybody who voted. Everybody must get on the boat. I must hold an office. Everybody must be at peace. And that's what's setting us back. And I gave us in Friday night debate the model for Singapore, how they came from a third world country to where they are, and 3 of the aspects that they use. One was meritorious based employment. People should be qualified. And somebody tried to, Elvis was fact checking Gateman. Yeah, everybody can have degree. Just because you have a degree doesn't qualify you to work in a particular place. Your degree might be used in another place and not in another place. But in Liberia, we don't care. We just appoint anybody, anywhere, anytime, and we expect them to function. It's not going to work. We need to appoint people meritoriously so that we can do the job. And that brings me into the ugly. This thing of corruption. And since I'm a pastor, I have a verse of the scripture that I want. Even the Bible talks about it. Okay. The
Go
Bible,
ahead, Reverend.
yeah, I will give it to us in the NIV.
That's the bonus from yesterday. Go ahead. Yesterday was
Yes.
Sunday, you know?
Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 11. It says, when the sentence for a crime is not quickly carried out, people's hearts are filled with schemes to do wrong. This culture of impunity, when nobody is being punished for wrongdoing, we will always continue to do wrong. And that's one of the things Singapore did. Singapore decided to hold people accountable. They started with the king. They started with all the higher ups. They punished them. And so everybody stood still. They're like, okay, I think a new day is in our country. So people are careful. If I did something and I went to prison for it, when Gateman is appointed to that same office, he wants to take time. He doesn't want to just follow my path. 2, 3 people go to prison. Everybody will take time to do what they do. In Liberia, in fact, we celebrate corrupt people. Okay?
But Mr. Sarah, even we are still all related. How will put anybody in jail?
Yeah.
All related.
so that's the reason, that's the ugly that would make us not to get from where we are. We have to punish people for wrongdoing. That means our political leaders have to have the will to do it. They don't have the will. The reason they don't have the will is because it's an unwritten code and unwritten pact that, hey, these other guys, we can hold them accountable because we will do our own when we leave too, so that they don't also run after us. So everybody's heart is just set and prone to corruption brazenly. People don't even care. They even boast about it. And the most corrupt part of Liberia that's supposed to check because of the separation of power, the national legislature. They are the most corrupt people in the country. We blame the True We Party. We blame the Congo people. Now you go into the house, it's all native boys running the house, native boys and girls, and they are worse than the American Liberians that they blamed yesterday for running the country the way they did. Look at now, the corruption in the national legislature is legal. They put that in writing. And so if you try to say anything, they say, oh no, now they got off budget, they got all these things going
Dr.
on.
Dukley call it institutionalized
corruption. So that's what's going on. So until we can root that out, Liberia is not going anywhere. What do these guys do? What do they do in the national legislature to be paid the kind of money they are paid? They are paid higher than many other African countries that are doing so well. What do they do? Corruption has many faces, and until we can overcome this entrenched corrupt practices and hold people accountable and not allow people to get away with it, listen, we will be on focus on Liberia for the next 50 years. It will still be the same.
Wow. Mr. Gaiman, go ahead.
Okay.
The ugly, what is going to be difficult to change?
Yeah. I want you to look at this book.
Mm-hmm.
Can you read it? Can you see what it says?
Let me make it big. It says
from Foya
to the capital.
Good. When the folks in the Unity Party 7 years ago wanted to bring me on board to work with them, not because I'm special, but they wanted me to help. They sent me this book, Joseph Boakai's book. So I'm going to read. We are not talking about they say here. This is why when I talk, people get upset because I like quoting fact. On page 38 and 39 of this book says a lot about corruption. Not only corruption, but the derivation of corruption. It says here, Joseph Boakai at CWA. But it said something special. It said, there was a gentleman by the name of Ara J. Davis. No one knew if he was whether it was the man's real name, but it was said in private that he fled from the anger of the former president of Guinea, Ahmed Sékou Touré. In any case, he got a job at the Liberia Mining Company, LMC. Joseph Boakai met him and was happy that he had somebody that he had in common. So he asked Mr. R.L. David for a job. What he did, he took a goat to entice Mr. David for the job. After Mr. David didn't give him the job he was doing, go and come, they decided to go and get his goat. When Joseph Boakai went to pick up the goat, the poor animal had lost a lot of weight. Apparently, it was not fed. How was Joseph Boakai to gain any profit by selling a skinny goat? Well, he and his brother, Faya Kabakoli, Dan Taylor, thought of something smart. Kabakoli and Joseph Boakai, the next day, they wanted to sell the goat. They decided the goat was skinny. So to sell this goat, they had identified an Indian. They filled a bucket with water and salt. And they had the goat to drink the salt water until its stomach swelled. It worked. They then took the swelled goat to the Indian and sold it, and he made an $11 profit. This is from Joseph Boakai's own book. This is a man who used to kick back. He gave kickback to somebody for a job. The person didn't give him the job. He went and confiscated his goat, brought the goat. He couldn't sell the goat for what he wanted, so they came up with a scheme. Feed the goat with a bucket of salt and water for a couple of days. When the goat swelled, then he took the goat and went to an Indian man and sold the goat and made an $11 profit. This is Joseph Boakai, man, who said corruption was one of the things that Ellen Johnson squandered a lot of opportunity. He was coming. What did he do? He said, before anybody work in my government, you will be vetted and you will declare your asset before you start work. Joseph Boakai even broke his own promise. He never declared his asset for weeks after he was inaugurated. Joseph Boakai now cannot hold anybody responsible for not declaring the asset when he himself violated the law from the beginning. So you see where we're going here when you talk about tackling corruption. There has to be some semblance of trust and credibility that you mean business. But these people know Joseph Boakai doesn't mean anything. Joseph Boakai is corrupt. As evidence of what's happening here, he said he will ride wheelbarrow to the executive mansion if need be. But then he's buying a $2.5 million armored vehicle for he and his vice president in Monrovia. Why people are not getting paid? Then at the same time, he said, there's nothing working in this country. The infrastructure is not there. But he never once said, this is what I'm putting in place to take care of the water. This is what I'm putting in place for the electricity. This is what I'm putting in place for road. So this is what we're talking. When you talk about fighting corruption, you got to have some credibility. Joseph Boakai has no credibility. I'm reading from his book. His biography.
Is that an autobiography? Or
This
somebody?
this is his book written by his cousin, Dr. Sakwa Malakba, the blind professor. That's his cousin.
But Mr. Eastman, there's called refutation, right? The law of refutation. JMB is not lit. So if somebody wrote something in the book that is not right, he would have refuted that. So he did not refute it. So that means the account is okay. But Gibbon, let me ask you this quick question. Who is after Joseph Boakai's life? That he needs armored vehicle and that they put $9.6 million for security. Who is after his life? When you take over an economy and you tag yourself as that rescue father, rescue mission, and you're spending all this money on your personal security, the ordinary Liberian people, what security do they have? Should we be securing the country or we should just be securing Boakai and his family?
It tells you that somebody is running from their own shadow, because you can say all you want to say about President Weah. He was on the street playing soccer, talking with the kids, playing basketball. Not once did anybody say, well, they're going to kill this man and he need fire armored vehicle and all of that. All of a sudden, this guy who is an older statesman that everybody adore, to say, driving few blocks. How big is Monrovia? Few blocks. I need not one, but I need 2 armored vehicles for me and my vice president. It's mind-boggling. Then the Minister of Education had the audacity to call the school to postpone reopening because the country is hard. First time in the life of Liberia that the education minister called schools to delay opening. Unbelievable, Mr. Eastman. When you talk about corruption, I rest my case. Okay. It is something that Joseph Boakai in particular cannot fight because it is written. Like the scripture said, it is written. Thank you.
I see some of our fans looking. They want to big joke about the wheelbarrow story. Me, I think in the wheelchair. No, we are doing our papa not correct. Me, Richard Johnson. I just let you know. Let me go now to Gibson. Since you have come back, economic stability and poverty. Remember, this is the ugly. This is the ugly that will be very difficult or impossible to fix. Economic instability and poverty. Liberia's economy has struggled with high unemployment, inflation, and poverty. Challenges that are proving difficult to reverse.
You skipped me.
Huh?
You skipped me, but Mr. Gibson.
No, but I haven't done Gibson either.
Oh, okay.
You come to my man. Wait for your time. You see that your computer people, you're blind. Your eye can't see.
Don't worry, you coming next. Structural economic issues such as reliance on imports, a limited industrial base, and the effects of global economic trends compound the difficulty of achieving sustained growth. Mr. Gibson, I'm telling you key things that will help bring our economy back. And I'm going to read those things again. Structural economic issues such as reliance on imports. We import everything. A limited industrial base. We don't make anything. The effects of global economic trends. Economic trends wants us to simply give raw materials. Compound the difficulty of achieving sustained growth. Fixing the economy will require deep reforms, including diversifying the economic base and improving infrastructure. Efforts that may take many years to bear fruit, if at all, given the current stability. You think this is something we can start turning around if we can't turn it around now? Administration?
Yeah, I mean, with the new Minister of Finance, someone who's worked at various institutions outside of the country. I think he was in Rwanda. I don't know which post he had in that role.
Uganda.
Yeah, Uganda, excuse me. So hopefully he will apply some new lens on a perspective of how to be a little bit more innovative when it comes to the overall approach to fixing the economy. I think, like Mr. Carter was saying, before we start to take any more trips, I think having around table discussion to figure out what are some things that Liberia needs to fix, for investors to even want to participate in putting their dollars in Liberia. When we talk about foreigners, but also for the Liberians who are abroad, what will it take for Liberians to return and invest in different sectors, right? And then also having a different approach when it comes to these travels that are taking place. Um, Having the idea in mind to have more of what they did in Canada, where they're talking to Liberians to see how they can best put together an effort to have more Liberians attracted to potentially investing in different areas. When you talk about tourism, talking about agriculture, all these different things, to where potentially you could have a group of Liberians that could come together and make something happen in regards to growing, right, and creating more businesses. I think there's a lot of work to be done in creating like a think tank or something, or even a overall list where if you go to certain areas in Europe or anywhere in America or anywhere else for that matter around the world, if there's key Liberians who are considered, the best of the best brains when it comes to business and investment, having them come together and having them serve as a reservoir of knowledge to where they can potentially tap into that reservoir to convince some of their partners that they have to come back to Liberia and invest. But it first starts with looking intrinsically to see what work needs to be done. How do we go ahead and change our image when it comes to being the best place for you to invest your dollars, to where it was going to be a massive return on investment, not just for the investor, but also for Liberians who are looking to gain jobs. When you talk about the various sectors, I think we need to move away from just looking at agriculture and looking at the different resources like iron ore, rubber, all those things. I think it needs to be a bit more innovative in the different sectors that it potentially have investors want to go ahead and look at. I think there's more work that needs to be done on that end, and hopefully, with a national investment commissioner, is somebody who is hopefully able to work with the Minister of Finance and work with other key individuals in commerce and do the technocrat work that needs to occur, to where you have real experts around the table and not just people who are trying to throw something at the wall and expect it to stick. So you have to have some thought behind the process of how you're doing things economically.
Again, the expertise, adequate research. Thank you. Let me go to Jay Cully. What's the ugly thing that will be very difficult to fix? What do I have you say?
I personally don't think there's anything too difficult in Liberia to fix. So, first of all, if we start with the corruption issue we're talking about in government, it starts from home. We have a moral problem. Generally, all of us, including me, our moral compass in Liberia is derailed, is destroyed. It used to be a time when you walk in, money drop, somebody say your money fell out and give it there. But nowadays it doesn't happen. And so I will give something on top of my head I will call the 10 block scenario. Let's say you have 10 blocks and it requires only 10 blocks to build a house. That's all you need in Liberia. That's all you need, 10 blocks. What's going to happen is that I will pick people from our partner here that just called name. Sherry will come and say, brother, I need 2 blocks. I said, but brother, I have 10 blocks. I'm going to build 5-bedroom house. I will give you 1. Sherry will say, no, I need my own house. Brother, I beg you, just give me 2 blocks. He will pester me and I will take the 2 blocks and give it to him. Remember now, I only need 10 blocks to build a 5-bedroom house. I gave him 2 blocks. And then he go and tells maybe my sister and say, oh, Brother Jimsky, he gave me 2 blocks, so you better go get your own. Then my sister comes and say, oh, you get Sherry 2 blocks. I need 2 blocks too. I said, my sister, when I build a house, I will give you 1 room. She said, no, I want to build my own. Short story, I gave her 2 blocks. I'm left with 6. I can't build. Sherry can't build. Sherry need 8 blocks to build because if he could afford it, he would not beg for 2. My sister can't build. She told 2 blocks, she need 8 blocks. Now I have 6 blocks left. I need 4 more. So we're in a deadlock. And that's a crap in the bucket syndrome because Sherry did not want me, Bill. He didn't want to see me up there. So he stopped up my progress in a way. He took 2 blocks. Now I'm short on 2 blocks. I'm trying to struggle to get that to make it 10. And then my sister came and took another 2. Now I'm down to 6. That's an observation. If you allow my 10 block scenario pass, Mr. Gaiman, just for the corruption side, says the social scientist. When it comes to the same corruption, we will see that we do not pay attention to the election process. Players that are within the election process, we don't pay attention to them. And I hate to sound educated. There's something in social psychology that is also the reciprocity concept. For example, if Mr. Gilman is moving in Florida and I'm his next door neighbor, he's looking for helper, he can't get any helper, and I come and lend him help, we put his stuff in the truck and go blah, blah. The next time, if I'm running to become a senator, guess who will be the first vote for me? Mr. Gilman, because I help him. Reciprocity. So if I go there, instead of helping with the university or other thing, I go Lofa. I put some on a makeshift little clinic there. And then I come with instrument that can detect diamond and gold. I go in the forest. I still say, oh, man, they can go. Man, lead the man, we didn't have clinic like man, brother. The man build clinic, let him, lead the man. Reciprocity, we take too much from other people free. And because when you take stuff free or freely, you don't value the hard work that goes into it. You use it fast or you misuse it. So our problem is moral problem when it comes to corruption. It comes down to, again, what I said, the Strategic Bureau. A lot of these things, if they are called into check. I remember one time I went there, I went to a bank and I spoke to this guy. I said, maybe I could help, with some, security parameters that will help, blah, blah. He said, I will get back with you. Finally, he called months later. He said, I talked to the chief. The chief said the chopping was the chopping was stopped. So he said, no, it sounds good, but he can't allow it. You see, so all these things are there. We don't deal with it. Who creeps in? Okay? Like even the players that are left, when President Weah left, Emmanuel Shaw was there. He's been in all government. Sorry for calling his name. But he disappeared. He's gone. He's gone. We don't see these players. He's gone. He might come in again when things settle. He might creep in. There are people there who are very elusive.
They call them ghosts.
Yeah, very, very elusive. We don't know these people who are part of the reciprocity gang. They come with these bags, hand up, and they manipulate the system. They undermine the system. They undermine development. Don't talk to Mr. Bestman, he's too smart. Don't talk to the other person. Don't talk. They are in the shadows. We don't identify them. And so when we have, and by the way, Mr. Bestman said, how do we fund this? We can raise, I wanted to get my first $50 here. We can raise money on this program for Strategic Bureau. And then we have people who are technocrats, who know the subject area, who are working in the field to occupy offices there. They're not working for the government. They are working in the interest of the Liberian people.
Yeah.
You see?
I will pass that message on to Mr. John.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Gradually. Okay. I'll give my little $50. So
thank you. I think that's a good idea. Gentlemen, we have been solicited to start a think tank. We got a nice little nucleus on this in this group. Focus on Liberia. It can blossom into something great. Now I'm going to come to you, Mr. Carter, and this is something unique. Remember, we're talking about the ugly. We're talking about public distrust and political disillusionment. There is widespread public discontent and disillusionment with the political system, stemming from years of unmet promises and poor governance. Many Liberians feel disconnected from the political elite, seeing Boakai's administration as a continuation of the status quo rather than a break of the past failures. Restoring public trust will be extremely difficult, as it requires not only policy changes, but a complete overhaul of how politics is conducted in the country, including transparency, inclusivity, and meaningful participation from civil society. What do you think? You think we can turn that around in this administration?
Um, that's another great question. So there's a there are well-known studies out there that proves that wherever there's a lack of trust, an erosion of trust in a society, that country can never advance economically, right? There are well-known studies out there. More evidence of that is that trust builds, our society lives on trust. You know, the problem with us as Liberians is the erosion of trust in our society. Even the common money that we use is supported by trust. It's not backed by anything. If I give you $1, your word say, Gabriel, I'm going to pay you back by such and such. Is what I'm going to take for it. Yes, I might have in clauses but that is based on trust. You can take off, poof, and leave without paying back that money, right? And in Liberia, I think regardless, not just this administration, the previous administration since our inception, maybe during the 80s, that's when this trust actually was broken, when, from the coup, the Civil War, and, wherever we are right now. So until we can actually rebuild trust in each other, and I think a lot of people keep talking about this, our country as a whole will not advance. I would say that here's the reason why there is discontent in our society. It's fundamentally economics. There's economics. You cannot have a country where there's only 2% of the people control all the wealth in a country and the other 90% are just living in abject poverty. Here's a common denominator between all of us here. All of us here on this panel, there's a common denominator. Either you worked, you have a retirement that's taking care of your living expenses, you have a business, or you have some source of income. That is not the case for any Liberian right now. There are people who are graduating year on year on year. People get out of college 5, 10 years. They have not worked a solid 2 years straight in their lives, or barely know how they've survived those 10 years. No jobs, no way for them to self-actualize. You cannot go through those times and expect some kind of contentment within the society. And there's thousands of people who graduate every year. There is no private sector. Everybody's looking at the government to provide jobs when we should be looking at the private sector, right? And this is a way we've been conditioned, right? So I will say this quickly and I will end. There are a lot of things that the government cannot, that you and I may not see right now, unless we have some kind of radical president who comes in with iron fist and does things kamikaze style. It's going to have some blowback, but that's what needs to happen. That is to tailor the budget to their economic agenda, right? So if you, as a president, you come in, you see the budget the way it's structured, 98% going to reoccurring expenditures, and you're only left with, let's say, I think 50 million to spend on an investment. What makes you think that 50 million that you're going to spend on investment is somehow going to create some kind of economic activities to, develop the country? It's not. Even let's say we even want to forget the private sector model and we'll go to Canadian route, right? Where, you know, Maynard can say, well, the government can stimulate the economy to just invest in infrastructure and development. We are not even doing that, right? So until that can change, I don't see that going anywhere. I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think the president right now has the team or the wherewithal to even do that. The other thing is building an economy that works for everybody. He said it today, right? I think that this was an admission that I cannot do this, or you will never see it in my presidency. That is going to take whatever it's going to take for Liberia to work for everybody. It's difficult, right? Until you start focusing on the private sector, that means making it easy for people to register their businesses, making it easy for them to pay their taxes, right? And creating those economic activity. People make it easier for someone to register their business. You have a lot of people registering business. You have a lot of people paying taxes. You make it easy for people to pay their taxes. They will make it easy to pay. It will be easy for them to pay. Nobody wants to pay taxes. So if you're making it difficult, you're shooting yourself in the leg, right? So until this government can muster the strength, I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't think they have it in them to really look at the budget and say we are going to do something different, whether it's through political maneuvering to change it, to make it developmental focus, or to say, okay, we can leave it as such, but we're going to focus on the private sector by some way targeting the diaspora and raising money and investing in maybe public-private partnership and helping companies create jobs. That is not going to happen. So with this, these are the things that I think are going to be more difficult to solve because no representative, no senator is going to want to take a pay cut for this greater good of the country. And if the president can come to the table, given his 40 years in government, where he's able to really persuade people, appeal to them, say, this is for the interest of the country, not just you and I, not just you and I, family being taken care of, but for the greater good of the country, let's change the structure of this budget to make it development focused. That's the only way you're going to see some kind of activities. It may not be great on a large scheme of things, but at least it's going to make some dent. But I don't think you and I are going to see that. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. We have touched a lot of key points: the good, the bad, the ugly. And I think if anybody's listening, I think they had a lot to take home with us. But I like to go around the bend and let everybody do a quick closing for 30 seconds rather, closing. And let's say you are talking to the president at this time. Consider all the things we said. You only got 30 seconds. Your elevator speech. What would you advise? And I'm going to start with Cully. Cully, you only got 30 seconds, and I'm timing you. Go.
You see, only me can time. Okay, so
this is for everybody. 30 seconds.
So what I would advise will be based on the blueprint the president has. I would like to look at his blueprint. Does he have? What does he have in his blueprint? In the first quadrant.
What if he doesn't have blueprint? No blueprint.
Then he would not have a focus. He would not. What would he be implementing? You see, so
got to arrest agenda.
Yes, because you see, all these ministries and all these people you're talking about, you have to hold them accountable based on your blueprint. And you can even require a quality report from any ministry and say, how far have you gone with this? Your short-term, what you call it, projection, and your long-term projection. What have you accomplished quarterly? What is measurable? What have you done? So it has to be some kind of roadmap that we all have, and then can spread across the table and say, okay, these are the things that I want in 4 months or 5 months.
That is perfect. Jay Cully, the man needs a blueprint, measurable, with landmarks, milestones to mark off. Excellent. Gaiman, 30 seconds. What would you advise if you right in front of the president right now? What would you advise him?
Well, it's almost impossible to advise someone when you know the outcome. Again, here we are on page 61 of his book. It says here, from CWA to the University of Liberia, basically, nobody have ever seen or known Joseph Boakai for taking stance on anything. Right here in his own book. He's not a person who is decisive. He doesn't have a conviction. Then on the last page here, real quick, on page 67, it says here, Joseph Boakai's first job, it was obtained through LPMC, through his upperclassman at CWA, Mr. Charles Minor. So you see where I'm going here? This is based on patronage and relationship. I was shocked when Joseph Boakai gave Charles Minor, made him the rice czar at the age of 81. The most important pillar of his arrest agenda, agriculture. He made Charles Minor 81 years, so to be 82, the rice czar. Everybody was wondering why. Now I have been digging deeper. I just found out that this is reciprocity. This man talk about reciprocity. That either you give me something down the line, I give you something.
But Mr. Gaiman, that book is not an authoritative source.
Let
Listen.
me defend you here, Mr. Colley. He cited the source. He didn't tell you. He's not telling you the source.
They made a computer man.
The book itself is not from. You see, for example, Mr. Bestman, you've been in the States yet. The books we use in college are different from the books on the internet. So the books in college are from authoritative source.
No. Who told you that?
Yes,
the MLA ask you to list your sources, primary sources. I'm listing them, and you say the book is not a real book. What kind of man is this?
No, I didn't say it's not a real book. I'm saying, you see, when they say authoritative source, when they have a math book, you have doctors in their field that will vet that book before it goes into a university or college.
Mr. Shirley said something important. He could have refuted every claim in that book.
Joseph Boakai is still alive.
Right?
That's right.
He still could refute it, but he hasn't.
This is a doctor that wrote this book.
Mr. Gaiman, your point is well taken. I'm going to Mr. Shirley. 30 seconds. The president is in front of you. Elevator speech. What can you advise him?
This is what I would advise the president. Number one, appoint the right people in the right places. I saw this when JNB was vice president and Ellen was president. I was on the university campus. I visited there, and the gentleman came and he was lecturing group of university students. And they lit, what's his name that just died from LRA? Okay? He asked him, what's your education? This guy told the university students that he graduated from a community college in America and his job was driving a school bus. Ellie appointed that man to Ministry of Education as a technical director. So when you see our country in the wrong places, we're not appointing the right people. A community college graduate, a school bus driver in America is a technical director at Ministry of Education in the Republic of Liberia. So number one, appoint the right people in the right places. Number two, hold people accountable, and I will still hold JMB feet to the fire. The first person that should have been held accountable was JMB party chairman, Reverend Luther Tapper, because he was the first corrupt person in the whole administration. Right from inauguration, he invested inaugural money, cut 5,000 from this money he owned. He has never held him accountable. Number three, prioritize national security and not personal security. I just did the math because this thing is serious. Then we are looking at it. I just did the math. 9.6 million for security for JMB and Jeremiah Kuhn, and then 11.9 million for NSA. If you do the math, that's 21.5 million, all for the same security. So what about the national security? Because if you want to attract investors are not coming into your country because the president wrote bulletproof card. No, they're coming into the country because the country is safe. Their money, their investment will be secure. So JMB should prioritize national security,
How much for NSA again?
not personal security. NSA is 11 point. Let me get it to you. Quick. Sorry. NSA is 11.9 million. And then 9.6 million for security for JMB and VP.
Nobody know where that money going.
Where is that money going? That's 21.
Nobody has no idea. Cannot be audited. Nothing.
JMB is deceiving the people. The man is inept. He does not have the
my man. So what you tell him? You can't tell a man inept in front of him.
No. No. This one is for us. I already told him the three things. Number one,
I gotta go to Gibson now.
Mr. Lee, I met another lady in Ghana.
I gotta go to Gibson now. My man Coley, I gotta go to Gibson. 30-minute speech. You in front of the president. What will you have? 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, the top thing from this entire conversation, we've talked about the good, the bad, and the ugly, but I think my greatest thing would be, in terms of advice, would be stop the lip service. We're tired of hearing all these things about what you plan to do, but take action. Take action by letting go of some of these individuals. No more reshuffling. We've seen reshuffles take place and people have been placed at different agencies and they've done nothing. Either take them out if they're not performing, but don't continue to promote lip service around Liberia. Liberians will not eat lip service. So it's time to take action and stop with the wasting of the time. Time is not on your side.
Time is of importance. Okay. And last but not least, Mr. Carter, 30 seconds elevator speech. What will you advise the president?
30 seconds quickly. I think we should prioritize electricity. I think you need that in the country if you want to, make investment. You want to have a lot of investment in the country. The second item on my list will be prioritize, the private sector. I think we focus too much on the government, but try to create an environment that where businesses can thrive, and you will have the domino effect, the economic multiplied effect in the economy. The third item on my list will be restructure your debt right now because it is ballooning to a place where it will become unsustainable. Take some of that savings or interest savings and reapply it to some of your agenda item. Hopefully, you don't have to go begging for it somewhere else. And then last but not least, and I'll continue to echo this, muster the strength to restructure your budget to fit your economic agenda, to fit your political agenda, to fit exactly the arrest agenda, so people can feel that you actually have some intentionality in terms of solving their problem on a daily basis.
Spoken like a true banker. I have Mr. Carter is a vice president for a bank. So, of course, his heart is the financial details. Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and your effort and all your input. We've come to the end of the hour. And we're about to close with the song. Despite it all, man, we love our country because we are all Liberians. Till next time.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.